Hello and welcome. My name is Erin T. Green and this is Psychic True Crime and Celebs. I'm going to have to add that on there because today I am bringing you a celebrity reading. This is Brad versus Angelina and what happened to Brangelina. So I'm excited to share with you about how Angelina might have contributed to their breakup or the demise of their relationship, how Brad did or how he showed up. We're going to talk about the infamous plane incident. We're also going to talk about what ultimately led to the demise and the destruction of their relationship. So I feel like I have a pretty clear idea as to what happened. I will share with you in advance because a lot of people have complained and left comments and this and that. My readings are long. They are thorough. I'm thinking about adding timestamps so you can skip around to the parts that you want to hear about. But I know that and I did it on purpose and that's how I read. So if that's upsetting to you, I might not be the reader for you. But if I am and you want to know the details and the nuances and what actually happened in full detail with all the juicy details and all the tea, here we are. Maybe that'll be it, right? Psychic True Crime and Celeb tea, Tarot tea, something like that. Okay. Without further delay, let's go ahead and jump right in. So that we're very first talking about how Angelina contributed to the relationship or how she showed up in the relationship. Then we're going to talk about Brad. Then we're going to talk about the plane incident. We're going to talk about what ultimately led to the destruction of this relationship. I feel like Angelina felt very lonely in this relationship. I think she had expected a lot from it and wanted it to be something where it didn't actually turn out that way, but that she was willing to give it. She was willing to put in the work. She was willing to do what it takes. It doesn't mean she was perfect or flawless. It doesn't mean that she didn't have projections. We get into that later. But we do see someone who feels really lonely in this relationship and really disconnected and kind of confused as to what happened or confused as to why things transpired the way they did. Maybe she felt like she couldn't reach Brad anymore, but one reason or another, she felt alone. She felt lonely in this relationship. Let's see. I do feel like she showed up with a lot of mastery in this relationship, a lot of emotional intelligence, a lot of self-awareness. I do feel like she is spiritual to some degree. She doesn't have to identify as spiritual. She doesn't have to have particular spiritual practices. But I do feel like she, as a spiritual person, she's well connected. I would even check out her astrology profile to see because I feel like something that she was a natural with or born with. Again, it doesn't have to be something where she had to go look into something or research something. I feel like as she is, she's a pretty deep, insightful, aware, connected, and spiritual person. But that she did feel alone in this relationship. And she might have felt in some ways, I think she might have been an old soul. We could say that when we say she's a naturally connected, aware, and spiritual person. But it could also be that she felt kind of old in this relationship, meaning kind of back to that feeling alone in the relationship. She wanted to be more than it was. Again, I feel like this is someone who is willing to reflect, willing to do the work, curious, wondering, willing. I feel like she definitely, and I think we already know this, so this is just, it's relatively redundant in terms of, what we already know, but obviously she loves being a mother. More than anything, she wanted a family. More than anything, she wanted to be a mother. So I will say, because we're already here and I think it's important to share, and I guess I could have opened with this, but I meditated on this topic already yesterday. And I'll tell you what I got from my own intuitive inklings and quote unquote channeling from the energy, which may give better context or a framework for the cards we pull. And they could even be different, so that's why I don't always open with the meditation, but I'm going to share with you here. My meditation, what it shared was Angelina was looking for a family life, for a home and family, she had this vision for herself or dream of herself, of a large family, of sort of being that humanitarian, but kind of mother of the world, not just like mother of her own children, but mother of the world. And this is a big vision, right? And it's something that required a partner to help her shoulder this. And so she knew that. And so when she met Brad, I feel like as much fire and chemistry as they had, she was assuming, based on their conversations, I would imagine, but whether she put him in this role or they had conversations on it, because I feel like Brad gave her lip service and said, oh yeah, I want this too. I want this too. And I feel like he thought he did want that. And to a degree he did. But we're going to talk about where that kind of hiccup develops in just a moment. But she had this dream of a big family, of a big vision, being a mother to her family, but also a mother to the earth. She feels like she found the man who's going to partner with her to spearhead this vision and to be the other half of this vision and to uphold and bolster this vision of family values, of supporting children. And so, and this actually brings her joy, by the way. She loves being a mother. This brings her joy to play, and it brings a light to her heart to be with children and to support children and care for children, and not even just her children. It feels like children in general. She's a natural mother. She might have a Cancer in her placement or in her chart, like even one of the, moon rising, whatever. But anyway, I feel like this is like from my meditation, she kind of expected that was like her energy, what she was hoping and bringing and envisioning for. And Brad gave her the lip service and the words, and he might have even thought that, but ultimately he wasn't going to play that role. Brad didn't feel like the bad boy necessarily, but he felt like someone who's he kind of reminded me of an Aries. I don't think he's an Aries, but kind of the energy of sort of being like a toddler, and not that he was like fiery and emotional, although I think he was at times, but it was like, kind of still living his bachelor life. Like he was going to go out when he wanted to go out. In my meditation, I saw him, drinking with George Clooney. Who knows if he was actually doing that, right? That's sort of me putting the players in. But the energy was of him like living this bachelor lifestyle, him living it up, him still going out and doing the drink and doing the smoke and doing all the things, having the time of his life. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Britney Spears, Kevin Federline reading I did, or even their situation. Theirs is a little bit different, a little bit more WT. Not to place judgment. I came from WT. If you don't know what that is, go ahead and Google it. But anyway, because Angelina feels much more maternal, much more wise, much more connected, much more grandmother, old soul than Britney does. So different energy, but similar dynamic, where they marry the man who they have hot chemistry with, and that's lovely. And they're not necessarily always going to be the greatest father figure or the kind of partner that that person seeks or wants or envisions for them. And they might even, because they have so much love together and share so much love, they're going to trust the partner, when they say, oh yeah, I want to be a father and I want to do all these things and I want to share these dreams with you. And then ultimately they're just living their bachelor life like they always have. So I feel like that's what Brad was doing, just kind of living it up, not even taking it too seriously. I don't even think he was thinking he was doing anything wrong necessarily. But I feel like he wasn't the partner that Angelina had envisioned, and he wasn't as there and as steadfast as maybe she wanted. And there was a difference in maturity, a difference in investment and responsibility to this family. And I feel like, again, she felt alone in this connection, in this relationship, and even in the marriage and the family home. It doesn't mean that they didn't have a lot of love for each other. I feel like they did. I feel like they had a lot of fireworks in the beginning, a deep soul connection. They were very much drawn to each other, but ultimately had different ideas as to how their lives were going to look. And everything Brad might have said in the beginning or even conveyed, if it wasn't explicitly said, I think it was. I think they both shared what they said they wanted, and it seemed to match. I feel like despite that, he could kind of continue to live how he always had, and just living it up, living like a single man, or even just like a man without children. And that's not at all what she wanted for herself. So I think she was confused, and he was off living his best life. And then that ultimately led to where we find ourselves in the card reading, which I'm going to get to. So that's what I got from my meditation. Some of the cards so far have added up to that. We've hardly touched on the cards, but I did want to share, that's what I got in my opening meditation about them. We've already learned about Angelina, old soul, maternal figure, mother to her children, mother of the earth, wanting her partner to uphold this big vision. And then she kind of picks out, the boy toy, the F boy. And not that he was, presenting himself that way. And I think he even wanted something more for himself, but ultimately wasn't able to offer that. Getting a call, so moving on from that. Okay, where are we? All right. So how did Brad show up in this relationship? Yeah, I feel like he kept a lot of his emotions to himself. Like, I think in the beginning he was probably it was hot chemistry, fire, connection, fireworks. But I think over time, maybe pulled back or held back on some of his emotions or his emotional connection with Angelina, or even with his family. And I don't even know if he would consider it that way or feel it to be that way. But when we're always sort of disappearing into substances, or we aren't home and we're not showing up till 3 a.m. or we're showing up at 7 a.m., stumbling in from our night out with the boys or night out on the town or whatever, we're more or less not connected to our feelings. That's a lot of avoidance. So, he might have thought he was having the time of his life. He might have thought he's just living it up. He's just being Brad Pitt. But at the end of the day, he was actually preventing himself from connecting with his family and his wife emotionally. This was his way of severing that tie and that connection. There might have been some self-worth, self-esteem issues, not believing he could hold this vision with Angelina or even stand next to her, or, believed he was worthy of it. He might have had a father. We could look into it and Google it later. You guys let me know if I forget to Google it later. But I wonder if his father was a stand-up father figure or someone who had abandoned the family, and or we're probably not going to get this detailed on a Wikipedia page, but hey, in case you find it, let me know. But his father might have been someone who was an alcoholic, or who, again, it doesn't mean they always physically abandon and aren't absent, or physically abandon their family and are absent from their family for their entire lives. It doesn't have to mean that he was raised by a single mother, but I do wonder if his father had a similar pattern of emotionally avoiding his family and the responsibilities to his family. Let's see what else is here. I feel like he had a vision for himself for this relationship and connection too, and I feel like maybe his was overpowered by hers. So maybe he didn't even see in the beginning a desire for a lot of children or a big family. And I think he wanted that. A part of him wanted that, but a bigger part of him wanted freedom of choice. Like, I almost wonder, as I'm sharing this, I know he is with Jennifer Aniston before he was with Angelina, and they weren't going to have kids or weren't planning on having kids, at least at that time. And so that clearly was some kind of decision for him for a time. And then he went off with Angelina and did something totally different. So it makes me wonder if, this big family vision, father to the earth, like she was being mother to the earth, mother to the children, if that really was his true vision. I don't think so. And, or if it was, again, a part of him, but then a larger part of him wanted something different and probably was a little bit more selfish. So let's see here. Yeah, I think he was, what do I want to say? I think he was feisty, fiery, volatile at times. You could have a temper on him, but it doesn't feel like abuse. It just feels like flying off the handle, quick to temper, snappy, and it feels like it might have been in situations where, like, he was under the influence. So it doesn't mean he was always under the influence. It doesn't mean he was never sober. It just means that he was living his best bachelor life and wasn't as committed to the family as Angelina wasn't standing next to her as a partner, upholding this vision like she thought she was going to get from him or out of him. Instead, he was still living like Brad Pitt before Angelina, and she was probably pretty confused by that. And then he would be like, I kind of see them like cooking eggs in the morning, and he's still kind of effed up from the night before, and she's like saying something about the kids, and he's like quick to temper, quick to snap, quick to say something that's not very nice. So that kind of energy. When she kind of walks away confused, like, what just happened and why is this upsetting? And, I asked a simple question, or, something like that. So something benign, neutral kind of thing where he's quick to temper and easily set off because he's under the influence and or hungover and or tired because he stayed up all night. Those kinds of things that then lead to a lot more temperamental, volatile, or hostile behavior. So someone just was a little bit more fiery. So I don't know if Angelina is a different sign from him in terms of whether they're different elements, but Brad Pitt feels fiery, and he feels like he held back from giving her all the love that he promised. I feel like he presented himself when they met as someone who was going to give her the world, show her everything that she wanted, put her on this pedestal, and like be the man that she wanted, be the father figure that she wanted for her children, or to her children. He was going to be all these things, and he gave her the lip service, and he even showed that. Like, that was a valid, genuine part of him. And yet I feel like he ended up withholding all of those gems. He had promised something he couldn't give or wouldn't give. And I don't know why yet. I think it was childhood wounding. I think it was childhood trauma. It might even be connected to his own father or his issues with his own mother. It feels like he had some self-esteem issues or some wounding from childhood that led him to then holding back all of these gems and treasures that he had for her, which would have been love for her, care for her, tenderness, kindness, being the father figure that he wanted, showing up for his family. But otherwise, he wasn't able to offer what it is that he presented or wanted to give to her, and instead sort of shot himself in the foot with that one and left them both very confused. So I do wonder what Angelina's kind of negative or destructive behaviors are, because we haven't seen a whole lot of that yet. But I do see her showing up as the bigger person in this dynamic. She was the bigger person. She was the one that was trying. She was the one that was efforting. It doesn't mean Brad wasn't trying, but when you're looking at it at face value and you're comparing the two, I'm seeing that she was much more invested in this family and relationship and vision than he was. And he was more or less MIA, if not physically, then definitely emotionally or mentally checked out at times. And I do think, though, that it's because it was originally her vision. It wasn't his. So if it wasn't his genuine vision, then is he really responsible for it? The next question is, but did he tell her he would do it? And then that would mean it is his obligation, right? Because he said he was going to do and be something that ended up not being able to provide. And we all make mistakes like that. So there is no person who is wrong or someone to blame, but this is how they both showed up in this relationship. I feel like she stayed up lots of nights really pondering, wondering, she really thought this was her person. I feel like she still thinks that sometimes. I'm sure she's moved on, but she's a very deep person and she holds on to things, not necessarily grudges and not necessarily anger, but it feels like these deep melancholy of loss, of wishing, of what ifs and why couldn't it have, and those kinds of lingering questions, and that she still sometimes finds herself up at night, those questions, and wondering if, I think there's a sense of duty and obligation here too of, could I have done more for my kids if we had worked out and stayed together as a partnership? Was I able to offer them everything I wanted to offer when it was just me? I think there was a loss, and not just a loss of that union and that connection for her, which was a grave, soul-shattering kind of loss, but also a loss in terms of what the vision that she had for her children, when she really thought they were going to have a two-parent home. And I feel like she felt like at times that she wasn't capable of everything she wanted to be able to accomplish as a parent, as a single parent, that she felt like she kind of was working with one hand instead of two. And so it feels like there was a loss in that way too. So let's see, what else about Brad? Again, he had a different vision for his life. And I think that he may not even have known that. Maybe it was acquired of voice when he got with Angelina. He thought he was going to be able to be all these things and wanted to be all these things, but ended up not being those things. Let's see. I think he was a little bit slow to step into that responsibility or obligation of a father, of being that full equal to her. And I think part of it was because of her strong maternal energy, meaning if she gave birth or adopted and she was already from 0 to 100, she was like now a mom, no questions asked. This is who she is. This is what she's doing. Ain't nobody playing around. Right? And he was more like, okay, they signed the papers that she had the baby, and he went from like 0 to 5. He's like, okay, I'm kind of 5% a father, but I'm not 100%. Certainly it's not anything standing next to you. And so I think that was part of the issue too, is that they were such opposites in terms of she was ready to do this. She was primed. She was prepared. Again, I would imagine she has Cancer in her chart, and he's like fiery, like ready to party, ready to do it up, live it up. Okay, I'll be a dad too, but like I'm more important in my work or my fun. You gotta want to have fun. I mean, honestly, that's when I'm getting fun. But of course, that included some substances and some fiery aspects, a temper. What else do we have? I feel like he did have a romantic side, and he really wanted to find a way to reach her. That was really important to him. But I feel like it was drowned out by substances, or even just that fun, self-destructive side to him. Because I do feel like he has a deeper inner romantic, like hopeless romantic, where he deeply wanted this to work out with her and wanted to be with her and loved her very, very deeply. That was true. That was legitimate. But it was also more subconscious and or on the back burner, and the part that he was presenting as or prioritizing or, living out every day was the side of him that was like fiery, the side that was temperamental, volatile, under the influence, having fun, party boy, bachelor, whatever. Different priorities, basically. That's what it is. Different personalities, yes, but different priorities. She was prioritizing her vision, her family, her children, the family unit, and he was prioritizing Brad. Some Angelina, Brad, maybe kids, Brad. You see what I'm saying? I think this is a very common dynamic that a lot of women run into when they go to marry, where they meet someone who they have incredible chemistry with, which is great for chemistry, but not always great for family. They marry this person, and ends up that person isn't nearly as committed to that family as they are, because this man isn't a committed kind of man, or maybe even a family man or a support kind of man. It is way more of a, hey, I can give you the ride in the night of your life and have a lot of fun with you in the adventure of your life, but I'm not necessarily going to be the husband or partner or support that you're hoping for. Let's see what else. I do feel like Brad has a wise side. I feel like he kind of saw this playing out at different times. You know, when he was sober, when he was clear, I think he could pull himself together to have a conversation, to offer some wisdom, to maybe even make some promises and assure Angelina that things were going to change, that things were going to get better, and that he really loved her and he loved the kids. And yes, I'm recommitting to this home. I'm recommitting to you, to this family. I want to be here. I want to do this. This is important to me. But ultimately, again, he had a differing vision. He might say one thing, but do another. So consciously, he wanted this family, but subconsciously he might have been sabotaging it with a self-destructive behavior because of that childhood wound, where he would say one thing but then not give it or hold back all of his jewels for himself, meaning I love you but I won't give it to you. I love you but I won't show you. I want this family but you're never going to know it. You know, I want to invest emotionally but I'm not going to. Now, of course, we haven't gotten to any Angelina's trauma yet. I think we're going to get to that. I don't know. We'll see in the cards. But we have how Angelina showed up in the relationship. We have Brad. Is there anything else we want to touch on for Brad? Yeah, he's fiery. He was slow to kind of step into obligation or fatherhood. He was also a little bit slower to change. And I don't think Angelina recognized that he did want this. He just moved in a much slower pace, or at a much slower pace, at a much slower scale. Some people, when they step into commitment, again, it's bada bing, bada boom, it's overnight. She had the child. She was at 100 the very next day. You know, some people are microwaves, other people are ovens, right? He was much more of an oven. Like, he was moving toward this and he was getting there, but it was taking way too long. And then the times where there was that self-destructive behavior, staying out all night, getting drunk all night, whatever his version or flavor of that was, it was like that would take them so much further back and far off trail or off path that it was much harder to get back on path. And they just kept, it was kind of one step forward, 6 steps back. Okay, so let's see what happened to them. So that we talked about Angelina, we talked about Brad. Now we're going to talk about, this is what we're going to talk about, the plane incident. That's what it was. We're going to talk about the plane incident. This also, when I was pulling the cards, was like talking about, you know, what the plane incident was, just sort of a manifestation or a microcosm of an over macro thing that was already happening. So the relationship was already on the outs. Things were already self-destructing. Things already weren't working out. And this was just the pinnacle event. And I think it was actually just like not even the pinnacle. It felt like it was in the making or inevitable based on where they already were in the relationship. So like there was already a foundation of not working out happening. And then this plane incident happened. So what happened? Yeah. So I feel like there was an emotional event here. Someone was holding on to something from the past. They weren't able to let it go. So maybe they were bringing something up on the plane. I know there was some kind of, we have the devil card here. So something went wrong. Someone, said something wrong, did something wrong. And there was a lot of emotional intensity here. We have emotions all over this thing, and someone clinging to the past. So how I think this could have played out, one version, right? Because there's energy, and energy can take form a number of different ways. So I'm going to give an example of how this might have looked on the plane. I'm going to give this energy form, but it could have taken another form, but been very similar in terms of dynamic and energy. I hope that makes sense. So basically, this feels like something was weighing on Angelina's heart. This is an example of what could have been based on the energy that was there, but this energy was there and this all played out. But the form, again, might not be 100% specific. So Angelina, something's weighing heavy on her heart. You know, maybe it's some of this, maybe it's all of this, something like this, or a recent night where things didn't work out, or he flew off the handle, or he wasn't totally invested and she was unsure if he really wanted this, that kind of thing. Something is weighing heavy on her heart. She presents this, and again, she's been clinging to the past is there because she's bringing up a past issue that she wants resolved. It's been weighing heavy on her heart, but I don't think Brad's in his right mind I think she's feeling scared. I think she's feeling scared to bring this up. I think she's feeling nervous about bringing it up. And I also wonder if she might have already had some plans like, hey, I'm thinking about separating, or hey, I'm not sure this is going to work out. It might have been like a curveball for him. Although he knew this stage was set. He may have even known this was coming. I think he was a little bit in denial. Let's be honest. That's what's here. But I feel like this energy of like change was on the horizon. Change was a coming. The storm was brewing. The storm had already been brewing. But lightning was getting ready to strike. But the thing is, I feel like she brings something and she says, hey, this is too much. it's either one or two things. Hey, this event or incident happened and I want to talk about it and resolve this because it's still weighing heavy on me. Or it's like, hey, too much has happened. So much has happened. It might be time to part ways. I don't think she dropped the bomb or dropped the ball there. I guess we'd be dropping the bomb more so. But I do feel like it was at the very least, skirted around. But I think she was nervous about bringing this to his attention. She didn't know how he was going to handle it or whatever. But I think this was what sort of burst the bubble, where they weren't able to see eye to eye. It didn't go over well. Whatever this conversation was, whether it was about a past event or about what was to come, it didn't go over well. I think there was emotional intensity, there was disagreement, there was an inability to see it from each other's perspective. And if we go with the example that I was giving where Angelina, something's weighing heavy on her heart, she goes to Brad, I feel like he wasn't the right mind to receive it. He may have even been under the influence. If I recall correctly, it's been too many years, but I think he was supposed to be under the influence on the plane during that time. So I feel like she brings something to his attention, or it was the last straw for her where she was like, I'm done with this. He's sitting over here laid out on the chair and I'm sitting here taking care of the kids or whatever. And she's just looking at him maybe while he's passed out in the seat. And she's like, I've had enough. Kind of like A Star is Born, if you guys have seen that. Not that he was ever at that level. Maybe, who knows? We have no idea. But something like that where she's like, here we are living this life. We're on this private plane and he's just laid out over here, passed out. So it could have been something where she was like, I've had enough in that way. And then, something happens though where he's woken up. She still confronts him. She brings something to the table and boom, that's what leads to a combustion. They're not able to see eye to eye. They're not able to bridge this gap. They're not able to find a connection here. There is a breakthrough, but I don't think it was a breakthrough as a couple. I think it was a breakthrough where Angelina had said, I've had enough. I know what I need to do. I need to move forward. And this is going to end. Like she found that resolve or that peace. Like he said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, right? Quote unquote wrong thing that said, where she was like, nah. So whatever it is she brought to his attention or whatever it is that she observed and then brought something to his attention, the way he responded in that moment was the final nail in the coffin. So it was already brewing, the storm was already brewing, and then lightning struck and it was over, it was done with. I do wonder how Angelina approached it. I feel like, there could have been some deceit here because we have the devil card. So it's interesting because I do feel like, again, that Brad might have been under the influence of substances, temperamental, quick to anger, and wasn't going to respond well. Like wasn't in a place to respond to what she had to say or what she was confronting him with. He's like, oh, why are you bringing this up again? I don't want to hear this. How many times have we talked about it? I'm so over talking about it. Like, are we just going to keep on banging the same drum? I'm sick and tired of it. Like that kind of energy of like, oh, just get over it. Move on. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like that kind of energy. But I also feel like, she might have been planning something behind his back for a while and where he might have felt deceived, where it was like, if she had approached him with something like, hey, I've purchased another house or I'm just going to stay at my mom's for a while or something like that, he might have felt like there was some deceit. It was done behind his back. He didn't know it was happening. Now his family was being ripped out from underneath his nose and he wasn't even given any notice. So it could have felt like that too. And then boom, combustion. Now, it didn't talk about the kids, and we might get to the kids here in just a minute. But when I did the meditation, when I asked about the plane incident, it felt like there was this fight or this argument or this confrontation, and then ultimately the older child stepped in to protect his mom. So maybe Brad was yelling, maybe Brad was getting in her face, I don't want to hear it, I'm sick and tired of this. And because it's a small space, because it could have happened at home, it could have happened anywhere, but it happened in a plane. And if anyone knows what it's like to lose temper or be a temper lost at you in a small space like a car, it can be a lot more threatening. Like it can feel a lot more threatening and a lot more dysregulating. So in this small space, perhaps they felt threatened, and eldest child gets in Brad's face, is like, nuh-uh, nada, not happening to mama. And then that's where they got into it. Okay. Cause it feels like this was for my meditation where he was trying to be protective of his mom, whether protective when she brought up to him something that he had done or happened in the past, and she was kind of sick and tired of the same old, or saw him pass out in the plane, something of that nature. She brings it forward, brings it to his attention. And then again, he explodes. It doesn't go the right direction, the way that It could have gone, but this is where she finds resolve. She's like, okay, this is no longer working. This isn't going to happen. I need peace in my life. I feel like peace is something that's really important to her. It's also something important to her as a mother and important for her to have as for her children. And I don't feel like she was finding that in this relationship. I feel like she found a lot more fire than she did peace. And that's not what and self-destructive behavior and things like that. That's not what she was looking for herself or in this relationship or for her children and family. So now we're going to talk about, I do feel like that ultimately this was, again, I think that she might have, again, brought forward his addiction. She might have even brought that there on the plane. So that's something else too, because I'm just looking at the cards and see if there's anything else. She might have been confronting him or even having an intervention on that plane. It could have been, that could have been the plan. And maybe that's where the deceit comes in. So again, the energy is all the same, but the form it can take varies. And so there's just any guess as to what the form was, which I guess I could ask sometimes, well, what form did this take? Show me the pictures, give me the visuals or something. But anyway, it could have been an intervention where it's like, okay, this is the perfect time. The kids are here and she approaches with the kids there in tow and is like, Brad, we need you to step up and be the father and the husband that we need. This is what's going on. This is what we're seeing. And this isn't working for us. And we know that you're capable of doing and being better. And instead of taking the opportunity to say, yeah, I need to do this. I'm committed to change. Instead, he flew off the handle or was argumentative. Oh, we're going over this again. I'm so sick and tired of hearing this BS. And if I have to hear it one more time, right? That kind of energy. And then that's when eldest child, again, would have become protective of his mother. So that kind of energy, that's what happened on the plane. Now I was asking about, what led to the demise of the relationship overall. I feel like we already got into some of this, but we're going to see. So we have Angelina's energy, Brad's energy, what happened on the plane. Now what led to their demise. I feel like what was happening subconsciously, especially for Brad, but for both of them, was not in alignment or was contradictory to the vision that they had for themselves. So they both envisioned having this amazing partnership, relationship, family, again, mothering the earth's children, mothering the children. And it was in complete denial or contradiction of the subconscious impulses, forces, and influences at play. Especially for him. And why do I say that? Because he's the one who's showing up differently from the vision. Then again, this was Angelina's vision, correct, from the beginning, based on what the cards are saying. So this may never have been his actual vision, in which case there wouldn't have been too much contradiction. He was just wanting to live out what his subconscious impulses were, which was self-destruction, substances, time of his life, fun party boy, F-boy, all those things. Great lover, but maybe not a great partner, that kind of vibe. And that was in direct contradiction to the vision that they had set for themselves, that she had set for herself, and that he had even said he would be a part of or even wanted to, but ultimately couldn't fulfill that role. So I feel like that was it. His subconscious stuff was in the way. Other forces were at play, other influences were at play, and ultimately he succumbed to those instead of fulfilling the role that he had wanted for himself, or the shoes that she had set out for her partner. It didn't happen. I feel like they were both on different paths, not only different visions, but different paths. And there might have been some travel differences, because we do have a traveling card here. And of course, we do hear about a lot of Hollywood couples losing the connection or having to give up their relationship because of the distance. So it could be literal traveling, which I do think plays a part, because in a situation dynamic like this, what that breeds is a lack of trust, because especially if homeboy is out drinking and partying and doing his thing and having fun with his bros until 6 a.m., stumbling in at 7 a.m. or not even being there at all for a week. And, there could be a sense of a lack of trust. Like, I don't know what he's doing. And I know he's not coming home after work after they call scene. He's not going to his hotel and reading. He's out living a big life, and I'm here taking care of all the kids. So if she was having those feelings and those insights, I could see how that would become a problem if it was literal traveling. But I also feel like it was them going on different paths and really not being able to connect and bridge that gap with each other. They both feel like there was a loss of love here. They both had a heartbreak. They both lost the love for each other long before the ending happened. I feel like Brad still loved her, but she went through the heartbreak and the processing and the grief of losing him probably long before she ever got to that resolve place. I think it's continued after that, but I feel like he still held out hope, and because he held out that hope, he still maintained that love. And then, she pulled the plug, and he was probably very angry in the beginning, hence, you know, the volatile plane incident as well. But one way or the other, they were traveling in different places, going in different directions, holding different visions for themselves, even if he was giving lip service to the vision that they said that they shared, and it led to a loss of love. You know, that was over. So let's see what else is here. Yeah, instead of moving forward toward change, people got lazy. All right, we got lazy, we got self-indulgent, we got sloth energy here. So this is someone sitting back, relaxing, having their cake and eating it too. Okay, having their cake and eating it too. So I feel like, I hate saying it, Angelina is looking like an angel. And the thing is, I know that she's not an angel, but I'm not yet getting the energy of what she did wrong. I feel like if anything, he felt like she was harping on him or holding him to his word, holding him to the responsibility that he said he would be or do. You know, as a father, he has natural automatic responsibilities. If anything, she was the voice of reason of being like, hey, dude, you got kids at home, right? It wasn't necessarily she was doing something directly, but maybe indirectly. She might have been the messenger of things that he didn't like: accountability, responsibility, obligation, duty. But I'm not getting a whole lot of energy from her, except from feeling alone in the connection and feeling like she wasn't being given what had been conveyed or told in the beginning. So homeboy got lazy. I feel like this is the case. He got lazy. He's sitting back. He's resting on his laurels. Again, he's a celebrity. He's wealthy. He's doing what he wants. He's living a large life. He's living and doing him, right? And ultimately, he's not moving toward change. He wasn't willing to change, wasn't going to change. I feel like there have been many conversations, many discussions about, you know, how they could change or move toward a positive outcome. And those changes weren't made. And if they were, they were temporary. I feel like he was like, what's the problem? I don't know what the problem is. Like, it wasn't even that he saw a problem and wasn't willing to change. Excuse me, I'm uncomfortable sitting here for so long. His issue was like, I don't know what the problem is. What's wrong? We got a lovely house. Like, look at us. Like, we're Brangelina. Like, what could you possibly have a problem with? And she's like, oh, I don't know. You're out living out life and you're working and you're out all night and doing who knows what. And I'm home taking care of the kids. And I wanted to share this life with you. And I thought we were going to do this together. And I don't even see you. And when I do see you, you're under the influence or temperamental because you're hungover. Like, that's not cool. That's not fun. And you're not being a proper father to the children. They're seeing the sloppy role model. And that's not at all what I wanted for them. I wanted them to have an ideal. She wanted ideal. You know, she wasn't looking for just bottom of the barrel, whatever. Let's just have some kids and do whatever. She was looking for like ideals. I want to raise them right. I want to raise them well. This meant a lot to her. It was very important for her, but it might not have been as important to him. He might have thought it was, but he didn't have it in him to actually follow through. He was resting on his laurels. He was, quote unquote, being lazy. He wasn't following through, and he wasn't moving toward positive change, period. He just kept moving toward the opposite direction. Let's see what else is here. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my legs are asleep. So what else is here? We were talking about the destruction of the demise of the relationship, the forces that led to that. Let's see here. You know, I feel like ultimately they really wanted this magical fairy tale ending for themselves. And I feel like that's how they saw it in the beginning, that we're going to have this fairy tale. We're going to have this fairy tale ending. But they didn't foresee not being together. I feel like they expected a fairy tale and what they got was reality. You know, what they got was, you know, wounding and wounding's forces and projections and all the human things we all have to go through in a relationship. I feel like they do end up finding healing, but it's on their own, right? So it's been years and years and years since Brangelina broke up. I think ultimately they find healing and resolution within themselves, but unfortunately it's not together. Yeah, I mean, what this relationship in some brought them was soul, spiritual, or personal evolution. I feel like, and I know we know, so right, some of this stuff is going to affirm what we already know. So for Brad, we know after, was like a year afterwards or whatever, he got sober. But there was some personal evolution there. But what I feel like overall it was for Brad was a change in taking responsibility. So he actually started taking responsibility. His priorities changed. His priorities changed some. It's almost like he became the man that he needed to be when they were in the dynamic, but it took losing the dynamic to become that man. And so now he might be that man, but he's lost the family that was the purpose or the catalyst for him becoming that man. So I feel like he probably has more investment and desire to see and be with his children now than he ever did when they were together. So I feel like that's the case. There's lost love here, of course. So they both have that loss. I feel like Brad probably still has, I feel like still holds some anger against her. I feel like he's found peace though too, resolution too, trust too. He's gained a lot of wisdom, a lot of insight, a lot of strength. A lot of personal growth through this. I do feel like there's parts of him that are still angry, maybe for feeling like she gave up or whatever, or like making a big deal out of something that wasn't. But to her, it was a big deal because she wanted the ideal, not just like, let's, you know, skate on by or surf on by or whatever. She wanted the real deal, and he wasn't able to offer that. But both of them coming into greater healing. I do still feel a lot of melancholy with Angelina. I can't say that she's like in full grieving or mourning mode, but I feel like there's a part of her that was shattered with this shattered dream, you know, with the loss of that family unit and everything she had. There's no way to undo that, right? There's no way to bring it back. You can't go in time and you can't fix it. So it's just living in that shattered shell of what once was and what could have been. And for some reason, that's been really hard for her to digest. It could be, again, because she was seeking that ideal, and she really thought he was that ideal and he was going to meet that, and it didn't happen. And so because the ideal was broken, there's no going back to that. And so it's living in the aftermath of shattered dreams. And I feel like she really still feels that loss to this day. Like we said, she still loses sleep sometimes or ponders about that. But I think ultimately this was their demons, you know, battling out that led to the destruction of this relationship. Their inner demons coming out, especially Brad's. And I don't want to say especially like he's the only bad guy here. It does take two to tango. Clearly there was a dynamic at play here. There was two people. And we're seeing most of his stuff shared here. And I think it's because, if anything, she was guilty of holding on to ideals and what she wanted things to be, or what she wanted people to be, or putting him in this pedestal when all those things weren't going to be possible. If she was guilty of anything, it was more that. Guilty of just loving someone and hoping for the best. I mean, is that really being guilty of something? I don't know. That's what the cards say, though. And for him, his demons, his inner demons came out to play that might be historical, that might be the lineage passed down from his family, from his father, of not being able to step into responsibility, but even due to lack of self-esteem or self-worth, not being able to be that father figure he wanted to be and not being able to meet that ideal. So instead, let me just sabotage and self-destruct, and then I don't have to be that and I won't be that. But then, of course, the irony is he became that after they lost each other, but it took the loss to become that. So for both of them, Brangelina, they both found personal evolution and personal growth, and even some peace or personal peace as a result of this. Their demise came about as a result of their inner demons coming out and childhood wounding coming out to play. And it took the form of his addictions and his laziness and his unwillingness to actually make this work. Again, she was at play here too, but we do see her as the better person. I feel like she thought he was going to be everything that she wanted, but he wasn't. So again, if she's guilty of anything, it's projections in the sense of putting something on a pedestal, idealizing something, romanticizing something, and, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket and making that out to be the thing. But I'm not seeing other energy from her that was problematic. So that's your reading, guys. That's Brangelina, that's Brad, that's Angelina, that's the plain incident, what led to the destruction of their marriage, and what the end result was, or what they took from it at the soul or spiritual level. If you want to see more readings like this, Celeb Tea, let me know. Comment below. If you want to see any crime, psychic true crime readings, let me know below. I want to hear your recommendations. I want to hear your suggestions. Hand them over to me so that I can do those readings for you. All right, everybody. Until next time.